if you don't stop Yoshi from snack snatching.
Yoshi, you dinner-devouring dino brat! Leave some for the rest of us!
Just for that, my ravenous reptile, you can go see Mama Fire Plant and bring back some fireballs to start the barbecue.
And I'm scared of water!
As I think everybody knows by this point, Nintendo can be a very controversial company. The games they release, their policies, they've all been subjected to the fire of the internet's opinions. But one franchise seems to be free from this high-level scrutiny, and that is the mainline Yoshi games. Throughout the many installments since its start in 1995, people don't really mind the series or its many spin-offs.
Well, I do. It's a deception from the company to get more money for lame, mediocre games, and they're getting you. You'll buy anything with a green dino on it.
You forget to take your meds today? Some people may partially agree with that statement, though, because there is a game that, at least when I talk about it, people mention in a negative light. Hey, no, get out of here. Yoshi Story, which I always thought was weird. Like, before this review, I never played the game before, but I always just assumed from pictures and videos that it was just another Yoshi game. But anytime I mentioned it, it's like, oh, so bad, so bad. So we're gonna see today. We are going to see if this is actually garbage, or this is a hidden gem, or maybe it's just okay. We gonna be Yoshiing today, boys. I feel like every Nintendo fan in some aspect knows the origins of Yoshi, but just in case I do a review of Mario World, I probably shouldn't give too much. The general gist of the story is in 1985 when they're making the original Mario Brothers, Miyamoto made a sketch of Mario riding a dinosaur, and Miyamoto made his life mission to implement that dinosaur into a game. So once the Super Nintendo came around and increased the technical landscape, they introduced Yoshi, which was that same dinosaur, basically. Now, Mario World was obviously a big success for Nintendo, which made Yoshi a big success for Nintendo, so they advertised the heck out of Yoshi. They made spin-off games, they made plush toys, they made... This is a plush toy, but it's not really a plush toy. Yoshi was making the world go round, so once it was time to make a game between Mario World and Mario 64, they decided to make a Yoshi game called Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. An important thing to note about this game is that they changed Yoshi's design a little bit. In most Super Nintendo Yoshi appearances, Yoshi has a thin, long body and a more dopey-looking expression, more akin to a real dino, or I guess the common perception of a dino in the 90s. But in this game, they made him shorter and rounder and softer looking and a bit more expressive. Next year comes, and they make Mario Kart 64, which Yoshi retains his revised design for. Of course, they have to do some more alterations to make it fit in 3D, so they end up making him shorter and cuter and all of those things above that I've mentioned so many times. I think at this point, it's starting to get a little grating, honestly.
But it was surely marketable. I mean, think about how well small, cute things sell. Like Kirby or the Trolls.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true, and I guess Nintendo liked it so much that it's basically the basis of all the design choices in Yoshi Story, which, in a certain way, I could be thankful for. I would say that this game is peak N64 game visuals. It's simple, but like oddly comforting. It is the only Nintendo 64 game I can think of at the top of my head that has the game graphics look as appealing as the renders. Which I know it's because it's pre-rendered, but I don't care. It's very cool art style. They also did something kind of revolutionary for a Yoshi game, and I gave Yoshi a voice, because Yoshi didn't have a voice before. He just had these certain sound effects, which I don't even know what you describe that as. Honestly, I've never figured out if that was supposed to be the sound of him coming out of the egg, or that's just like the Yoshi sound call something. I don't know. Anyway, the composer Kazumi Totaka provided us all with the beautiful Yoshi sound clips that are still known today.
Who decided it would be smart to give the dino a voice? Dinos don't talk, they roar.
But if they couldn't talk, would they be able to...
Take a look, it's in a book, a reading
Alright, so the story here is the elder Yoshis live on the Yoshi Island, and they're very happy until the Giving Tree, which I mean, it's like the super happy tree, but it's basically just the Giving Tree, is taken away by them from Bowser, because Bowser's just a sad man, and he doesn't like the Yoshis being happy. So the Yoshis fall into a big, deep depression, and they decide, we're not even gonna fight back, we're just gonna be sad, and the baby Yoshis hatch, and they're like, we ain't gonna be sad. So they ain't sad, so they decide to go through the 6 pages of the pop-up book. Did I mention that Bowser turned the island into a pop-up book? I don't know why he did that, but the Yoshis decide to go through the 6 pages of the pop-up book to get the Giving Tree back, and that is the plot of this game. It's like Amphibia, but worse. I booted up the first level and I was immediately impressed with the fact that I had no clue how to run. It was just because how running works is you have to press in either direction with more force, which is, I don't know how much I like it. Like, I know this is very much a me thing, but I much prefer when running, especially in a 2D platformer, is controlled by a button. It just feels a little unnatural, and I mean, like, the running feels slippery as well. It just feels like how I think playing as the Mars 64 Penguins would feel like. The flutter jump is interesting because I didn't like it at first. It basically has no forward momentum or no backwards momentum when you do it, but it actually can come in handy sometimes. I end up liking it. I mean, like in the later levels, that became very useful. Yoshi does feel kind of heavy to control too. It feels like I'm fighting to move him. It's like the kind of traction I wish there was in racing games, but it's a platformer, so like, why do it? Thankfully enough, nothing else really functions weird. Oh wait, I forgot. Poochie! Never mind, this game is a 1,000 out of 10. Oh my goodness, Poochie! This is the best thing ever. So how you progress in this game is you have to collect all the fruit in one level, and once you do all of that, then you'll be transported to the next page. Don't get confused by the clay pots at the end. That is not the goalpost. I thought so at first, and then it ended up making me take way longer to complete a level, so just don't make the same mistakes I did. I think that collecting the fruit thing is actually a very cool idea, though. It reminds me of Collect-a-thons, which are very popular on N64, but it still has the SNES-like platforming thing, so, you know. Okay, I take you back to the cute thing. What the heck is this Wiggler? A main mechanic held over from the game's predecessor is the egg throwing mechanic, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's a very creative idea when it comes to level designs, as it can add a vertical element that would not be available if all you could do was just jump. It also just feels nice and rewarding. I guess it's silly to say, but I feel like I did the game right more when I hit it with the egg than just if I just hit it like a Mario game. Another feature brought over from Mario World 2 is the assortment of enemies. In Mario World 2, it was a mix of A tier and B tier enemies, but this time it's mostly all B tier, and I think it's great. The Shy Guy is indisputably the best Mario enemy, and now has a place to shine and just become like the new Goomba. I am very, very proud of them. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. The new enemies can be pretty hyped too, but they can get very annoying, which I will dive on more later. Now, a weird thing I always wonder is why they did my boy Blarg like they did. Like in Mario World, he was this goofy fire dragon that was, a little bit scary, but they made him like a blob, like the Michelin Man or something. I'd also be remiss to ignore the Bone Dragon, but I'm ignoring it because it sucked. I really feel like by this point, the control issues are no longer much of a bother. I mean, they still suck, but they are either the least of my worries, or they don't cut into what I'm doing as much as they did when I started out. So now I will complain about the snakes. Who designed this? Maybe the idea works, and I'm just bad at games, but like, this was so unfun to figure out. They also don't spawn back easy, so if you, like, miss one, you are screwed for the next 3 minutes. You have to wait somewhere else that makes it load.
But they were so cute.
That doesn't matter if I want to tear my eyes out. I got a game over twice because of these guys, which means I had to redo the entire game. There's a reason why snakes represent evil. It's this level.
Well, looking at it on a game development basis, it's the best designed enemy in the...
Cram it. Well, it gets better after that, right?
After that, you gotta dodge through Shy Guys and just pray you make it out alive. Then you have to hop on board on what is, for all purposes, the offspring of that Melissa and Doug dragon and the snakes from earlier. But there is, like, no control issues with the dragon, which is weird, but I enjoyed it overall. And you bet you when I got all of that fruit, all the fruit at the end of the level, I was celebrating like no cat has ever celebrated before. Except there's a boss at the end. This fella is named Cloud and Candy, and his fight is really easy. I can give props to him, he's a very nice looking lad, but like, also his fight is so pointless. I wonder if the game designers thought this level was just too easy and they wanted an extra roadblock, but like, this guy? Really? After you eat him up, you get sent to heaven or something. Did Yoshi die?
Yoshi!
Oh, never mind, it's just a heart thing.
Aw, man.
The first thing that struck me about this page is the aesthetics. I love the backgrounds, it feels really nice and homey. You also get to see some more exploration with there being different paths. While they have numbers for the checkpoints, it gives full freedom to explore the different areas. And these areas are just little huts with different baddies inside to dodge and hit while gathering some of that good. The Shy Guys on stilts are so adorable. When I first saw them, they immediately reminded me of the Gonk Droids from Star Wars. I think it's the way they hobble along and how blank their faces are that it just makes me imagine them saying the I was thinking after the last page that this was about to be really tough, but the difficulty went down, and I was actually kind of bummed when I had to start playing. This level so far has been the funnest I've had playing this game, and that also means I don't have much to say about it. But I will detract a point because there was no Poochie, which makes this horrible. This is awful. 0 out of 10.
Heck yeah, SeaWorld.
This game, of all games, for some reason misses out on water level syndrome. The controls in this page are basically unchanged from how they function the rest of the game, but the only exception being that the faster speed is actually a little easier to control. The only real limitation is that you can make eggs, but you can't throw them, at least to my knowledge, which is like, why let me make them anyway? I guess it's so you can carry them to the next page, but it just still feels unnecessary for them to tag along. They also decided to make the enemies the bane of my existence again. They have these big jellyfish that look straight up like Elmo or Cookie Monster that move up and down in a path or just follows you. And since you can't hit them anyway, you just gotta take the L if you get hit. The same with the snorkel snake, which is basically just the land snake's big, meaner older brother. And this man has caused me as much grief as the other one did. I legit had to search on YouTube where the pipe to leave was because I was too scared to do any exploration in that piece. Anyway, I feel this page was pretty fun overall, but it feels a bit bogged down by mean, stinky, stupid enemies. And also, like, I like exploration elements, but I feel like this one was a little too much because I got confused way too often. But that's probably because I was being a bit silly and not because there's anything actually wrong. Alright, we have rolled up to Mother Russia for the final page. Now, seriously, this is Bowser's Castle. The first thing they introduced to you is this swing hammer contraption, which is actually really fun to control. It's refreshing to see Bowser's Castle in a game that doesn't use the same objects and enemies, and that's probably because there isn't a lot of enemies in this. Like, Yoshi Story Bowser's Castle is basically just a glorified American Ninja Warriors course. I don't even mind it because it does provide a good enough challenge. Like, there's these tan wheels that are very sensitive, so if you even land a bit of a hair off, you are losing a Yoshi with no doubt. There's also these like cup clapper traps that you have to time just right to make it through, or you get squished, and that is not very much fun. The fruits are also put in inconvenient positions this time around. Like, every level they are obviously plentiful, but they devised it where getting them is a bit more of a challenge. With not as many enemies, you don't have as many eggs as usual, so you have to savor the egg boxes to get all the fruits and the bubbles. Also, they place them near these sliding spikes, so you are risking yourself by trying to get in any proximity of these things. The odd thing about this level is just how unbalanced it seems compared with the pages before. Like, it's challenging for sure, but I had a harder time on the last page. I assume they did this because they thought the boss fight was going to take up a lot of our time, because of course for our boss fight we got...
He's so ugly, look at him, he's precious.
Okay, I won't deny it. This was one of my favorite Bowser models ever. But, you know, he isn't really much of a boss in my opinion. The boss is split into two parts, with the first using the egg throwing mechanic but with bob-ombs. You aim in on him, riding this green blob man, and the difficulty mostly comes from the bob-ombs falling from the sky and exploding. Now, after you hit him 3 times, you enter Phase 2, which is pretty weak sauce as well. I will give Nintendo points because I get what they were doing. The fight mirrors the fight against Bowser and Mario 64 pretty heavily. The attacks by Bowser fires are very similar in almost every way, but there is something very interesting that makes these two fights very distinct. Mario 64 is a 3D game. Yoshi Story is not a 3D game. These attacks work in that space because there's more room for Bowser to become an obstacle and a nuisance to advancing, but on a 2D plane it just does not translate well. You hit Bowser with the bob-ombs again the same way they did the first part of the fight, and then he's dead. Or he's just tired. He gets carried off by a fleet of magic Koopas, and the game concludes with a long storybook outro to show you how far you've went. At least the Yoshis be looking happy. And honestly, me too. Yoshi's story is admittingly flawed. It has control issues up the wazoo that affects the difficulty, and it has a tendency to fluctuate. But all things considered, I did like it. For every game control issue, with every thing that just made me annoyed, there's also tons of charm and tons of fun to be had. Even though I thought there was times where the game was stupid, I never thought it was outright unfair. It just was annoying. Yoshi's story ended up influencing the Yoshi franchise for years to come, as it was the first Yoshi game not to prominently feature Mario in any real way. Also, the redesign of Yoshi that featured in this game had long-standing consequences to how Yoshi's been presented ever since. In later games, he got his more dinosaur attributes added back. Smash 64 actually goes fully back to the old design. But once the GameCube era came in, they developed a happy medium that has become the common accepted design for Yoshi ever since. Okay, so editing Hoodcat here. So Super Mario Wonder messed this whole jig up because it looks like the Yoshi that's in that game looks way more close to the SNES Yoshi. And that's kind of been a long time coming because there's been a thing where like certain Yoshi artwork is stylized to look more like the Super Nintendo design and the modern design. People have been calling it the Josh versus Yoshi debate. It's very interesting. I am personally Team Yoshi, just so y'all know. Anyway, to my conclusion statement. Even if it does have flaws, Yoshi Story once again shows how a little green dinosaur can always give a player a nice, cute little adventure.
Hey, delightful.
Boo, Croc's better.
Dude, can you?